time for some fun.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Arekkz here, and today I want to talk about a game called Snack World, which is a super random name, right? But this is a game that I have been having a load of fun playing over this last week, and I wasn't initially going to make a video on it. In fact, I just kind of tweeted about the game because I just happened to pick it up. I mean, that's kind of what I do, right? My Nintendo Switch, I love it. I take it everywhere with me. I've said this before, and often when there's kind of games that we're not necessarily covering on the channel, I'll just jump on the eShop and be like, hey, what's come out? And then like pick some games and play through them. And that's just kind of what I like to do, right? And you know, in my time, I played through many like smaller indie games and whatnot, but I completely forgot that Snack World was coming out in English. The reason I say that is because I actually bought this game. In fact, wait a minute. I bought this game last year in Japan. When I was in my holiday in Japan, I was in Okinawa and I was kind of just wandering around. Another thing I like to randomly do when I'm in Japan, I just kind of like to go into game stores and pick up some new games, especially for like Switch, it's region free, right? So just get the cartridge and do that. I bought this game. I never actually got around to playing it. And the reason I bought it is because I'd seen trailers for it before and it had always been like my kind of thing. It's not a hugely complex game. You know, you're not gonna expect like crazy gameplay systems, but it's just one of those fun, like cutesy little, almost, and I say this not in like a bad way, but it almost looks kind of like what you would expect of like a mobile game, only it's without any of the kind of predatory microtransactions, any of that stuff like that, because it's a genuine console game. But this is just a good, fun game to play. It's a dungeon crawler, right? Like through and through. If you like your dungeon crawlers, then that is what this is, right? You basically go through these sort of randomly generated dungeons and you farm for loot. And I mean, if you guys like playing for loot, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do if you're on this channel, whether you play Monster Hunter, whether you play Destiny, whether you play Diablo or like newly released Wolcen, then you probably like your loot, right? And that's kind of what you do in Snack World. So this obviously always appealed to me because it was also a level 5 game. Level 5 made some fantastic games in the past, things like Ni no Kuni and stuff. So they're a studio that I also kind of tend to pay attention to, like if they do new stuff. Not everything they've done has been perfect, but generally speaking, the stuff they do at least has their signature sort of flair, their signature kind of style, that sort of just fun, happy, like anime style. It's just a happy game, right? Not everything needs to be serious. Sometimes you just want to sit there and have some fun. And everything about this game is silly. It's set in the kingdom of Tutti Frutti, which is a hilarious name, and loads of the characters just have ridiculous names. In fact, I was fighting like a pig enemy today who's called a pork chop. And then I think when you kill him, he's like, my ribs are spare. And obviously it kind of finally clicked in. So there's lots of like funny little sort of jokes in there. But anyway, point is, for those of you guys that have been watching this video already, you know, like, you still haven't told me what this game is. The game is, as mentioned, it's a dungeon crawler, right? You have lots of different abilities, and what I like about it is there's lots of kind of cool little like fun customization elements. It works around this system you have called these jars, which are basically like little sort of key rings. If you guys remember back in the day when you used to have phones, or when like phones used to have those little like holes in the bottom of them, so you could actually hang on like little like ring pulls or key rings, or the kind of things that you would put on the ends of your phone, probably bigger in Japan. Anyway, principally, there used to be things you could hang on your phones. Most phones don't have them these days. My new phone case does, which is cool. However, that's kind of what the jars look like, and then obviously you link it with your little like in-game device and it turns into an actual fully fledged weapon. You have slots for different jars, and these can be things like swords, spears, axes, hammers, bows, magic staffs, shields, that kind of thing, and you have all these different slots, and then when you're out in battle you can switch between them freely, which makes for some kind of like fun combat. Now, as mentioned, it's not a super deep game. You're not going to have like crazy skill trees to go through, crazy like points to spend, anything like that. It's not going to be one of those things where like every single weapon has got like 50 different abilities. It's basically you equip your weapon, you have a simple attack button, each weapon then has a special, and there's like a kind of super special where like that charges up longer. Basically every weapon's got like a kind of special ability that is almost always off cooldown, and then you've got the longer one that takes a while to build up, and then depending on the weapon you get, that will vary, and it's not always tied to that particular weapon, it's also tied to the drop. So you may have, say, 2 different spears that both have different super moves, so to speak, and they of course then, sometimes they do good damage, sometimes they like buff your stats, they do different things. So obviously, in like a loot driven game, there's obviously plenty of things to farm. I think there's like well over like 250 odd weapons to chase, there's also like over about 300 different pieces of gear. There's a lot of kind of fun, charming things in this game. You can also of course pursue armor as well, and one of the things I really like about this game, I mean actually, firstly, let's just wind back, because every single time I talk about anime games, I'm like, hey, this game never lets me be bored or have a a beard. Now, we're almost there. The game does let me be bald. The game does give me a beard. It's not really my beard. In fact, it's definitely not my beard. But it's close enough. And you can also choose like the height and the build of your character. So I basically made a super swole, baldy bearded guy who apparently never trains legs ever, which I find kind of an insult, because I definitely train legs, alright? Anyway, point is, there's cool character creation. Again, it's pretty basic, but there's enough options to at least kind of create your kind of character. But what's also cool is that when it comes to customization in-game, you have two different slots. I know like a lot of games kind of do this anyway. You have your physical, like, stat-based gear, and you then have your cosmetic gear. So you can actually, like, especially when you kind of get some of the newer pieces, like early on in the game. I mean, bear in mind also, I'm still quite early on in the game. But early on in the game, some of the stuff doesn't look that great. So you might not necessarily want to wear it, but you can of course put it into the statistical slot so you can still get the benefit of having like the crappy piece of armor that gives you 20 more defense without having to look like you're wearing the crappy piece of armor. In fact, I spent a good portion of the game running around just in my vest and my shorts because I was like, that looks cooler than the armor you gave me. And you can do that, which is really cool. There's obviously crafting in the game as well, so like once you get slightly further through, you can go and open up the fabrication menu, so you can then go back out, and that kind of adds in some of the repeatable stuff because then there's materials for you to farm. So you might be like, oh, I really want to make like this ranger outfit. Okay, cool, I need X, Y, and Z materials. So you then go back out and do some side quests, do some main quests, go and farm those materials, and you then come back and fabricate your gear to make like your armor. And of course you can then fabricate things to use, like I made a piece of armor not because it was statistically better, just because I wanted to have it to look different. So I then put that in the cosmetic slots. There's also upgrades for your weapons. So of course, if you like a weapon or you have a weapon you like, you can then pour materials into that to upgrade that as well. So it's kind of got that sort of just fun little like loot grindy loop that we basically like in these kind of games. Again, it doesn't really matter what sort of loot-based game you like, whether it be something like Monster Hunter or Destiny or Division or Diablo or like Path of Exile. They all kind of have the same loop. It's the idea that you go out, you get cool loot, you keep it going, and you find some more stuff, and that loop just kind of keeps us playing. And that's basically what this game offers in sort of like a much smaller, more like accessible package. It's like a really good travel game, especially if you're playing like portably. I mean, you can still play it on like, you know, on the screen or home console, but I've spent most of my time playing on my Switch Lite because it's just a good like game to jump in and travel. Like most of the dungeons aren't too long, so you can kind of jump in for like 10, 15, 20 minutes if you want to, or play for an extended period of time, and you can then run through the dungeons. Some of them are much bigger with the whole sort of random generation. It's, you know, similar sort of way to like Diablo. If you play Diablo 3, you know, you might go in and you won't necessarily know where the exit to that dungeon is, or like the kind of doorway to the next floor. So you then explore all the different corridors, you fight all the enemies, you get all the loot, finally you find the doorway, which then takes you down another layer, and you rinse and repeat until you get to the boss, defeat the boss, get more loot. You get the idea. Now, some levels are, you know, much bigger than others, but of course there are different biomes, different areas to explore, and it's just been a pretty good fun game so far. I am still pretty early on in the game. I'm, you know, like only sort of done some of the early stuff, but I'm already really enjoying it. And some of you guys have sort of like seen my tweets and been like, oh, you know, are you gonna do a video on this? And I was like, you know what? Might as well. I've been playing it all week and I'm still enjoying it so far. Quite, you know, how long it will keep me busy, honestly, I don't know. But from my initial time playing, from like the initial kind of stuff I've done so far, I've just genuinely been really enjoying it. It's just a fun, simple, easy game to kind of get into that you can just sit back, not take too seriously, and just enjoy. So, yeah. Oh, and also, the reason I didn't mention it, I should have mentioned it because it's kind of a big thing. It has multiplayer. You can also do the side quests with up to 3 other people for a team of 4. I didn't mention it because I haven't actually had a chance to do it yet. I haven't had a chance to like sync up with anyone. I've basically been playing this solo, but the way that it works is you kind of typically do most of the story missions, I believe solo, and then your side quests you can party up with other people, but there's a lot of side quests to do, and you definitely want to do the side quests because invariably they lead to different weapons, you get different pieces of gear, so they're well worth your time doing. They're also clearly geared for multiplayer because some of them are actually kind of tough. Like I went to one of them and maybe I was just too low level, but I actually did kind of get a little bit stomped. So clearly I'm gonna do that in multiplayer. But yeah, so if you want a fun game that you can grind some loot and play with your friends, and apparently it works local and online, so that's also a bonus thing, then that's something else to consider. Anyway, that's it for the time being. That was my initial impressions of Snack World. Again, based on only really playing it this week, so you know, I haven't got a huge amount of time in it, but I have enjoyed everything I've played so far, so yeah, if you guys have any more questions, by all means let me know in the comments down below. If you guys are playing this, let me know how you guys are getting on, and maybe I'll do an updated video at some point, because once I've got further, got some like better gear and some other stuff like that, maybe it, you know, opens up even more. But for those of you wondering what it's like, then hopefully this has shed some light. I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and also click on the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. Also, don't forget, you can check out 269 and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. Be sure to drop by and get involved. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.